Thank you very much. This is a beautiful morning, and you are the products of a wonderful education. You represent the love, the concern, the savings, the dedication of the generations that went before you. And so we always ought to start a graduation by thanking those who prayed and paid that we might receive these wonderful degrees. Let's give our parents, our cousins, our friends, our husbands and wives, all of those who made this day possible in your lives. Now, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is that you've completed a certain stage of your career and your education. The bad news, well, I shouldn't say that for you. It was not true. Maybe it's not true for you. But it was 68 years ago that I received my bachelor's degree from Howard University. And the only thing I could think of was, I got this paper, but I don't know nothing. What am I going to do with it? It won't get me a job. I mean, maybe it'll get me a job, maybe this, maybe that, but graduation left me with a huge question mark. In fact, the days leading up to my graduation and the days afterwards were probably the most miserable time in my life. I hope it's not true for you, but it's not bad if it is. Because when you realize what there is left to do, and that this education, as wonderful as it is, only scratches the surface of the world in which we live. And where do we go from here? I was in utter despair. And I started running. It was segregated then, so you couldn't drive from Washington back to New Orleans without stopping. And we stopped at a church conference in North Carolina at the foot of Kings Mountain, North Carolina. I wasn't interested in the church. My parents wanted to stop there. But I went out for a run. And I started running and running too fast and slightly downhill. And then I started uphill, and I still wouldn't slow down. I was pushing myself to utter exhaustion. And when I got to the top of Kings Mountain in 1951, I could hardly breathe. But it was a moment of me of terrible frustration until I caught my breath and opened my eyes. And I opened my eyes, and all of a sudden I saw a blue sky like this one. I saw trees like those around. I saw fields of corn. And I saw an earth in which everything seemed to have purpose. And it suddenly hit me. Whoever made heaven and earth, wherever all of this beauty and creativity has come from, he couldn't have left me out. There's something there for me too. In fact, I could not conceive a creator that would create a generation like this that did not each have a special, specific divine purpose. The New Testament says that the Spirit of God, the Spirit of the Creator, the kingdom of God is within you. And for the first time in my life, that made sense. Yes, you are, and I am, and we all are a part of a spiritual universe for which we don't fully understand, which we're just beginning to reach into. The mysteries of our lives far outweigh the burdens and the challenges and the successes that we have achieved. Life remains a mystery. And you who are in the medical sciences know that every day. But you who are teachers know that. You who are marketers realize that marketing may be the way that the Creator has ordained that the hungry might be fed, and the naked might be clothed, and the sick might be healed. Did they teach you that marketing might be Sears and Roebuck? Or marketing might be Walmart? That wherever you go in the world where goods are manufactured and distributed, that we have probably done so better in this economic order than has ever been done in the history of humankind. And that there is nothing that you do or nothing that you have learned that is not somehow a part of a sacred vocation which ultimately defines you. That you are creatures of the Spirit. And that is one of the hardest things to humble yourself down to accept. I get a lot of credit, as does Martin Luther King. We did kind of change the world in some ways, but I'm going to let you in a little secret. We really didn't know what we were doing. We had no idea how this country could change. But when a woman like Amelia Boynton called from Selma with no money, with no plan, with no vision, no dream, you go when someone calls. And lo and behold, in 3 months' time, the president gets a message that we didn't send, but that led to the passage of a Voting Rights Act. 3 months, no money, 25 or 30 people, a march from Selma to Montgomery that really was a mistake. It ended up on the wrong day. And if it had ended up on the day we planned, it wouldn't have happened that way, and we probably wouldn't have had a civil rights bill. There is in our utter foolishness, our foolishness to believe that we can change the world and that we can make this world livable, when we kind of let go and let God in whatever field you might find yourself. When you run to the end of the road and you're exhausted and you don't know what else to do, and you relax and let go, then something divine is liable to happen in your lives. It may be a disorderly student. It may be a dying patient. It may be the complications of this universe, which we have only begun to scratch the surface of. But whatever it is, we are more than human beings dealing with the frustrations of an earthly life. We are spiritual beings. And somehow, in the realization of the spirituality of our being, there is a power that we do not understand and maybe should not try, but that when we release ourselves to the ultimate imagination of our divinity, glorious things happen. This is perhaps as confusing a time as I have had since my 68 years. But, you know, as bad as they were back then, we went through them all. And it was one or two little things. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself, from Franklin Roosevelt. A Supreme Court decision by a Supreme Court appointed by David Eisenhower. A humble, sincere, respectful message shared to the world by President James Earl Carter, one of our family. But we take for granted the fact that he served as president of this same confused, cluttered, and difficult world for 4 years and did not get any American killed in battle, and did not kill any of America in battle. And we take for granted that two old men were gathered together at Camp David, and they could reach no conclusions, and they would hardly even talk to each other. And at the end of their time, as they were getting ready to go home, President Carter gave each one of them a picture of themselves with their grandchildren. And when they saw themselves with the grandchildren and realized that they were walking away from their responsibilities and dumping the future on their grandchildren, they turned around, unpacked their bags, and in 3 days, they reached a treaty that has lasted for the last 50 years. That's not political. That's no economic pressure. That's not a military victory. There's something profoundly spiritual about that. And there will be things like that that will happen in your life. Things that you don't understand, things that have consequences far beyond your knowing. Things that generations yet unborn will look back on you and say, this is where we got our start. You have a tremendous opportunity. You have tremendous training, and you never get through training. You never get through, and most of the training you've gotten and most of the ideas that you get probably didn't come from the books that you were assigned. It probably came from the classmates you wrestled with questions late in the night. It probably came from people that you disagreed with and you didn't understand. It probably came from the challenges that life has put in your path. Those are not stumbling blocks. Those are stepping stones that will take you into a future that neither you nor I can imagine. But I think on a sunny day like this, with a wonderful group of people that surround you, with the kind of love and investment that has made in you, the kind of future that we dream for ourselves and for you. This is a great day, and you are a great people, created for just such a day as this. God has blessed you. Pass those blessings throughout his creation.